Hey everyone, it's Bets, and I'm back for one last story. Now, today I'm going to tell a very special story. It's a book that was given to me by my grandmother, one of the last books she gave me. It is called The Trellis and the Seed by Jan Karon. Now, this book is special because my grandmother actually underlined a certain sentence in this book. It's like a special message between the two of us. And I'm actually going to quote that line when I tell this story. And while I'm telling it, watch for me to lift up my hands like this. Because when I lift up my hands like this, that means I'm quoting that line exactly from the story. So pay attention as I'm telling the story, and you'll see when I'm quoting that line. So this is my version of The Trellis and the Seed by Jan Karon. The little seed felt very warm and comfortable in the hands of the gardener. The gardener carried the seed out to the garden, dug a hole, put the seed in it, covered it with soil, and watered it. Now the little seed felt very uncomfortable in the ground. It was cold and it was wet, and the seed looked around and thought, "What am I doing here? I don't look like any of the other flowers in the garden, and it's so cold and wet here. I don't know what I'm doing." "Not to worry," said the good earth. "One day you will grow and become a beautiful flower, just like all these other flowers in the garden." The little seed didn't believe the good earth. The little seed didn't think that he would become anything special at all. But then one day the sun came out, and the little seed felt a little tingle, and then all of a sudden, whoop, a little sprout popped up. Now this little sprout was enjoying the sunshine. The gardener came out and put a little trellis in front of the sprout. Now the little sprout instinctively grabbed onto the bottom rung of the trellis. But then the little sprout looked up and saw how high the trellis was. "Oh my," he said, "how am I going to climb to the top of that trellis? It's so very high and I'm so little." "Don't worry," said the good soil. "One day you climb to the top of that trellis and you will sprout beautiful blossoms just like all the other flowers in this garden." But the little sprout didn't believe the good earth. The little sprout didn't think that he was anything special. Well, the next day it rained very hard, and the raindrops pelted down on the poor little sprout, and the little sprout held on to that bottom rung of the trellis as hard as he could. But once the rain stopped, the sun came out, and the little sprout grew and eventually became a vine, and the vine slowly wound his way up the trellis, little by little, until he made it to the very top. Now, once he made it to the top, little vine looked down and suddenly became discouraged, because he realized there was nowhere else to go, and he didn't look like all the other flowers in the garden. He didn't have any beautiful blooms or petals. He didn't smell. He was just a vine. So the vine became discouraged and looked down and began to droop. "Now don't be discouraged," said the good soil. "One day you will bloom, and you will have wonderful fragrance and beautiful petals." But the little vine didn't believe the good earth. The little vine didn't think he was anything special. But then, that night, something wonderful happened. The full moon came out. And that night, the vine felt something strange. He began to tingle, and then poof, his buds popped open, and he had all these wonderful silvery petals and a beautiful fragrance that filled up the entire garden. The fragrance was so strong that the gardener awoke from her sleep and ran out into the garden wearing her nightgown and bare feet. And she said, "Oh my, what is this intoxicating aroma that has woken me from my sleep?" And when she ran out and saw the vine hanging there with the beautiful petals and the fragrant aroma, she was amazed. She couldn't believe that something so beautiful and mysterious had grown from such a tiny little seed. And she looked up at the vine and she said, "I just knew that you would be something so wonderfully different," she exclaimed. The gardener took some petals from it, and she put them in her hair and took a bouquet and took it inside. For you see, that vine had become the beautiful and mysterious moonflower that only bloomed in the light of the moon. And unlike all the other flowers in the garden that bloomed in the light of the day, the moonflower only bloomed in the light of the moon and gave off its beautiful aroma. And that flower was the most beautiful flower in the entire garden. The end. So I just wanted to give a word of encouragement to all you late bloomers out there. You might just be discouraged because you don't bloom at the same time as all the other flowers in the garden, but be encouraged because when you do bloom, your flowers will not only be the most beautiful and mysterious, blossoms in the entire garden, but you will be wonderfully different as well.